What's going on, everyone? Climate Data Report here with today's weather outlook for Wednesday, March 29th, 2023. We have multiple things to go over today, including the snow squall threat in the Northeast, the severe weather threat at the end of the week in the central states, and another severe weather threat next week that will be coupled with a major warm-up in the east. So let's get into it, shall we? Starting off with the satellite picture here, you can see on the satellite loop we do have that cold front that is slicing through the Great Lakes, and it's going to sweep through the Northeast tonight, bringing in a very cold start to Thursday tomorrow. So that's something you're going to pay attention to. It will also have a snow squall threat with this. The west coast, you can still see that area of low pressure spinning off the coast of California. It's still providing some mountain snow and some rain showers down at the lower elevation. Taking a look at the National Weather Service hazards map, winter storm warning still up for portions of California and in the Rockies, even winter weather advisories. Taking a look here across northern Texas in through western portions of Oklahoma, western Kansas, and even parts of Colorado and New Mexico, there is a red flag warning for the possibility of wildfires today, as there's going to be a dry wind going across the ground, which could strike up a wildfire or two. Taking a look at the Storm Prediction Center, no threat of severe weather for today. There's a marginal risk tomorrow across northern Texas, Oklahoma, and southern Kansas. There's also a risk from portions of southwest Minnesota through southeast South Dakota and portions of northern Nebraska, where there is the threat of severe weather for tomorrow. The biggest tornado threat would be across portions of Oklahoma and Texas. It's not all that impressive for tomorrow, nor is the wind or hail threat. It's possible this gets upgraded to a slight risk, but not really expecting it right now. Then the big threat evolves, and that is on Friday, where you have this big enhanced risk. I mean, they're really going bullish here with this enhanced risk, and they have it going fairly far to the east. Some are saying that they're a little too far to the east. Some are saying they're spot on. We'll get to the models for this in a little bit. All modes of severe weather are likely, especially west of the Mississippi River, where there is a tornado threat, perhaps a strong tornado or two. There's also a wind threat in this area as well. Let's take a look at the computer models, shall we? First off, here's the RGM model. As you know, I am a fan of the RGM model. I show it a lot here on the channel, and it shows everything quite well. It shows the snow squall dash rain shower threat in the Northeast. Some areas it is going to be more rain than it is snow showers, but as you can see here, as we get into tonight, when the sun sets and the temperatures start dropping, there is definitely a heavy snow squall threat, and there could be a couple snow squall warnings with this, especially across Vermont, maybe even in New Hampshire and Maine tonight as this pushes east. Behind that, watch what happens. I'm going to show you temperatures. Look at these low temperatures tomorrow morning. You have temperatures in the teens in the Great Lakes, even some spots in the single digits, 20s in the Northeast, and this does not factor in wind chills. Wind chills are going to be in single digits and teens across the Northeast tomorrow, so it is not going to feel like the end of March. But this only lasts for a day. It does warm up and rebound in the afternoon, and it warms up even more as we get into Friday in this region. As you'll see here, generally north of Pennsylvania or south of Pennsylvania, it does warm up relatively nicely on Friday. Then we go back to our severe storm threat. So here's tomorrow. Taking a look at Thursday's threat, you can see a few isolated severe storms do get going across portions of Oklahoma and Texas. Not going to be a major threat tomorrow. The bigger threat is going to be on Friday. Where the warm front sets up is key. As you can see on the RGM, it's setting up from just north of Kentucky through Pennsylvania, and you are going to have a lot of elevated convection going on with that. So you will have some elevated convection, meaning low top thunderstorms, maybe a strong thunderstorm or two, and some heavy rainfall. You can see that setting up here on the RGM model. But look what happens behind us. You do have our squall line that gets going, and you do have severe storms that get going southeast of this strong area of low pressure. The wild card is how far east will the severe storms keep going? That's something that the models are kind of in disagreement on, because once you get into, say, central Kentucky, central Tennessee, the instability really backs off. But the shear does keep going. So I do think the wind threat is going to persist into this area. The threat area that we really need to watch out for tornadoes, that's back here across portions of Iowa, southeast Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas. You're really a big threat, and even portions of eastern Texas. So that's where I think the best chance is that the enhanced risk could potentially get upgraded to a moderate risk at some point tomorrow or tomorrow night. East of there, I think the threat, it's going to drop off relatively quickly. I know this is showing the storm still going, and yes, the squall line, it's definitely going to keep going, but I think it's going to lose its punch once it gets into central Kentucky and central Tennessee, due to the fact that instability is going to drop quickly at nighttime. As you can see at this point, we are into the nighttime hours. This is a bit different than what we saw last week, but nonetheless, I would still pay attention here. There will still definitely be isolated cases of wind damage, and there will probably still be a few severe warned storms, just nothing like what we will see west of the Mississippi River. Taking a look at the NAM model real quickly, you can see the NAM also has the snow squall threat in the northeast. Here's our energy that ejects out of the west, and watch what happens as I advance this. You can see the NAM is fairly bullish on rainfall along the warm front. Here comes the squall line. The squall line gets going across Iowa into Illinois, back down, all the way down in through Arkansas. There will be an initial tornado threat as this gets going. Then it will transition over to a wind threat. And the NAM actually keeps the wind threat going into portions of Kentucky, right on even into Mississippi. But this really starts to lose its punch after that, say after 9, 10 o'clock on Friday. And there will also be a renewed severe threat on Saturday across portions of Pennsylvania, maybe even to upstate New York. We'll have to keep an eye on that. There could be a little bit of instability that tries to form and destabilize the atmosphere ahead of this system. And look what happens with the temperatures on Saturday in this area. No, we don't want contours. Here we go. Look at the temperatures here. They really do warm up. Mid-60s all the way up into upstate New York, like Saratoga Springs, Albany. Yes, this is mid-60s. Southeast Pennsylvania, mid-70s possible there. So we'll have to watch Saturday's severe threat. All right, let's take a look at the longer range, shall we? This is next week. This is something I generally don't show in the channel too much. This is for Sunday night, and we'll keep this going through good majority of next week. This is instability numbers. Look at instability CAPE numbers from Texas on northward. We're starting with Sunday night into Monday. Now we're into Monday evening, and I'm going to advance this again into Tuesday. You have multiple days of high instability. Now look what happens here. You couple this on Tuesday night with a strong area of low pressure across portions of Nebraska, Kansas, northwest Missouri, Iowa. Yes, we are seeing signs of another potential severe weather outbreak, and in fact, I actually like this outbreak better than I do for the one on Friday. This one has a lot more potential simply because the amount of energy is greater, and I'm really concerned about this. Take a look at this trough that's being advertised on the GFS. This is super concerning. You have strong vorticity, and you also have a lot of dynamics at play. I'll show you surface here. Take a look at surface. You get that strong area of low pressure going, and this is concerning. Next week definitely has potential to be a bigger tornado and wind outbreak than the system on Friday. I'm not trying to downplay Friday by any means, but I'm just saying I am more concerned of a much larger, widespread outbreak next week simply because of the instability that's at play. Behind that, look at this. Another trough tries to come in, but it will be relatively short-lived. The GFS does try to get an area of low pressure going here, but we're not buying into that because other models simply don't agree with this. All right, let's take a look at the Climate Prediction Center. 6 to 10 day outlook. Temperatures will be above average in the east, well above average in the southeast. I'm agreeing with that because I showed you there's going to be a ridge next week ahead of that trough, and you'll have multiple days of high instability, which also comes with high dew points and warm air. The west coast will stay well below average because remember, the United States is like a seesaw. Whatever it's doing in the west, it's usually the opposite in the east and other way around. So if you're warm in the east, you're cold in the west. If you're warm in the west, you're cold in the east. Very rare is it ever same conditions. 8 to 14 day. The above average temperatures try to sneak all the way up into a majority of New England. I agree that's going to happen at this time. I don't think the cooler trend that the GFS is trying to show is right, but we'll just have to wait and see. Below average temperatures will continue in the west coast, and take a look at Alaska. Below average in Alaska for the 8 to 14 day outlook as well. Alrighty, moving on to precipitation. Precipitation, above average precipitation, will continue in the west, the northern plains, and in the southeast states. One final note on the northern plains. There could potentially be a snowy aspect to the Friday system, and the northwest side of the system could see a few inches of snow. 8 to 14 day outlook. Above average precipitation across much of the central states because severe weather outbreaks are going to be likely beyond next week. That next week's not the last one. Down the pipeline, the pattern does favor for there to be continued severe weather. The Four Corners region does start to get a little active with some above average precipitation. Alrighty, that does it for today's weather outlook. We'll have another one again tomorrow. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel or want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button down below. And until next time, stay safe, everyone. Take care. See you all again tomorrow.